Tempo is a brand new investing app available in New Zealand, and we are very excited to be telling you about how it works and how you can use it. But just firstly, to let you know, in 2023, they conducted a survey with 1,000 Kiwis, and they found that 27% of people who they spoke to didn't know where to start when it came to investing. We're probably guessing quite a few of those people are maybe listening to this podcast, so keep listening.
So the great thing about Tempo is that their goal is to take the guesswork out of investing. When you sign up, they ask you some pretty simple questions, including how you feel about the idea of your investments going up and down, because some do more than others. You tell them how much you want to save, and then they recommend a mix of their funds for you. It's called guided investing. You're getting investment advice from the experts. How cool is that?
Yes, it's so cool. And also because they track your goal progress, they're also able to recommend changes to your investment mix over time, which is so great. If you're a member of our investing club, we've got an amazing offer. So if you join Tempo, you'll get $10 kickstart into your account. If you would like to learn more about how you can get that, anything you need to know about the investing club or Tempo, you can find that in the link of our podcast show notes.
Let's make your investing journey as exciting as it should be.
And just a quick little testimonial from someone in our community who is using Tempo at the moment. Wow, I just joined Tempo thanks to the recommendation from The Curve, and I'm loving the layout. The breakdowns are exactly how I want my investments to be laid out for me. Isn't that cute?
Some fine print for our lovely listeners. This offer is only for New Zealand residents, and terms and conditions apply. So investing with Tempo means you'll invest in Forsyth Bar funds and receive financial advice from Tempo. For more information, including the required disclosures for Tempo, head to the link in the show notes of this podcast. Oh my God, snap.
This is not a paid endorsement, but Vic and I are both drinking out of our little Nespresso. What are they? They feel like a little baby cup. I love it.
They're just iced coffee containers. Yeah.
It's quite fun. I think I've decided in terms of my liquid intake, I need to make it an activity, a fun activity.
Make it fun.
And sucking a straw seems to do that for me.
Do you find you get wrinkles though when you go into it?
Do you know, it's so funny that you say that, because that is the one thing that I thought of. I was like, I don't know if sucking is great for around the lip wrinkles. Damn.
I just noticed the other day, I was like, oh, and I don't know if it's self-fulfilling. You know, when you start seeing something, it hasn't got any worse in the last couple of days, but I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm like, if I'm hydrating my skin and my body with more water, maybe it's like going to be fine. That's sort of where I'm going with it.
Oh, we've got a good Curve Weekly this week.
I'm not sure if this is turning into the Trump Weekly or this is the Curve Weekly. Like, this is feeling as though Trump is going to be taking over our lives for the foreseeable.
Yeah, it's almost like copy paste every week.
I'm in two minds about whether or not we should be giving any more attention to this man. Like, I know we need to know about this. I guess the thing is, we're not promoting, he's already in power. We're not giving him any more power by talking about it.
I mean, I'm happy to sit here and just talk about our weekends. But yes, you're right. It has been another roller coaster ride in the stock markets last week. Globally, so not just the US, this went viral. This went viral in terms of stock markets.
What happened?
So earlier in the week, Trump, and we kind of knew this was coming, he'd alluded to it, but he decided to action and actually put tariffs on Canada and Mexico. So he put a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico and an additional 10% on China. Now, I was trying to think of the best way to describe a tariff. It's essentially a tax on imported goods. So any goods from Canada, Mexico, or China coming into the US now are charged an additional fee or additional tax. So a tariff is like if you went into a club and they had a door charge, you were trying to enter this venue and they were like, so sorry, it's $20 to enter this club. And you'd be like, screw that. I'm not entering. It used to be free last week when I came. Is this a good analogy?
It's a really good analogy. I'm loving where you're going with this.
Yeah. It's like, but imagine that you were a product. Imagine you were an avocado and you were trying to go from Mexico to America. And now you have to pay an extra $20 to get into get into America. The price of you has just gone up. It just means an additional tax now for goods entering America from Canada, Mexico, and China.
Why have they been stung? Why are those three the countries?
Good question. It's because Trump is saying that it's due to the fentanyl crisis. They say that there is a lot of fentanyl coming from China and coming through Canada and effectively creating addicts out of people in America. And then with Mexico, it's about immigration. So that was early in the week.
God, you'd just be trying to do anything you can to stay off Trump's radar, right? Like, as a country, you're just like at the party, avoiding all eye contact. Like, don't let him see us. He might put a tariff on us, you know? Like, everyone must just be feeling like, oh, God, we just don't want to rough him up the wrong way.
I was talking to someone the other day and they were saying how they were listening to an interview with Christopher Luxon, our Prime Minister. And the interviewer was asking him about Trump and everything, and he just kept diverting, answering the question. And the reporter was like, you could so tell he was like, he didn't want to be on Trump's radar at all. You know, you don't want to be like, yeah, we're buddies, because then you kind of isolate a lot of people that would vote for you. But then you also don't want to piss him off, because then he'll be like, he'll go and buy you like he did when he's trying to do with Greenland. He'll be like, oh, New Zealand's making a bit of a noise down there. Let's just go buy New Zealand. Anyway, he has slapped tariffs on these three countries. So why did stock markets fall around the world on this news? This is because it's going to impact company profits, and share prices are just a reflection of company profits and company profitability. So this is why stock markets fell. It also creates a whole lot of like political uncertainty, because then after that, the retaliation was Canada, Mexico, and China all retaliated. Canada, for example, was that we're pulling all US alcohol from our shelves in Canada.
This is ridiculous, isn't it?
Then China also did a whole bunch of other tariffs on certain goods back at the US, but it also opened an antitrust investigation with Google, because Google's a big US company. So once this started happening, Trump was like, okay, I'm sorry. So he's like, I'll delay the tariffs by a month. So then stock markets were like, cool, this is great news. You know, there might be a solution. There might be some kind of agreement reached. So he almost reversed the tariffs for a month at least. So these poor businesses and countries trying to navigate, okay, will these tariffs be in play next week, next month, you know, at all? I don't know. Like, it's just such a headache. It's so annoying. Anyway.
So a lot of these businesses that are operating in China, Mexico, Canada are trying to figure out if their profit margins are even probably sustainable with an increase like a tariff, right? Like, there's a lot of people that will be affected by, okay, if we're having to then charge our customer 20% more, 10% more, whatever it is.
And for a lot of those businesses, you can't change that overnight. Do you know what I mean? Like, these tariffs come in overnight and all of a sudden your cost base is now 25% more expensive. But you might not be able to quickly reflect that in prices that you charge customers. There's like a delayed effect is kind of what I'm saying. So yes, there'll be profits that will be hit, and that's what economists around the world are saying, is that there'll be about a 2 to 3% hit to profits on the S&P 500.
It's weird though, because what it feels like, because the tariffs are Canada, Mexico, China, it makes you think that it's those countries that are going to be financially impacted. It's I don't really get the connection between then why the S&P 500 companies are being affected. Can you explain that?
With tariffs, at the end of the day, like you said, we just end up paying it. So we just end up paying higher prices. So therefore, there is companies within the S&P 500 whose, like you said, whose profits will decrease because their cost base is increased. Like Apple does a lot of manufacturing in China. You've got a lot of companies that make products in China or sell products into Canada, because now Canada's retaliated. So it just means everything gets more expensive. And when everything gets more expensive, that impacts profitability. And then there's all these flow-on effects as well of things like that are harder to measure. So this could be things like having to relocate your manufacturing, because now it's way too expensive to manufacture in Mexico, for example, if you're importing into America. So you might be like, okay, we're going to have to shift our manufacturing from Mexico to India. that's going to cost us. That's going to impact our profitability. So there's all these flow-on effects that we don't even know the impact of those yet. One company that's a really good example of that is a company in the NZX 50, which is the top 50 companies in New Zealand, Fisher & Paykel Healthcare. They have a massive manufacturing facility in Mexico. They manufacture sleep apnea masks. So if you have trouble sleeping at night, that's what effectively one of their products helps with sleeping. They manufacture in Mexico and sell into the US. And they represent 20% of our index in New Zealand.
That's big.
So to put that in perspective, Apple is 6% of the S&P 500 and Fisher & Paykel Healthcare is 20% of our index in New Zealand.
Oh my God, that's like a fifth of the publicly listed company's profit comes from one business.
And so that company was hit massively because of this announcement. They've just seen an increase, 25% increase overnight in the cost of making and importing their masks into the US. So that in turn impacted the index. The overall New Zealand stock market was down because of this one company, as well as other ones that have been affected. So there's just like so many flow-on effects of this. Some we're feeling now in terms of the stock market movements, but a lot we probably won't feel for many, many years as well. So even though he's paused it for a month, I think the reason, and this is purely my view, that he decided to pause it was he didn't think that those countries would retaliate. And the fact that they retaliated strongly, he was like, oh gosh, because he's all about protecting America. Let's figure out a way we can protect America, or what else we have up our sleeve in terms of bargaining power so that the US consumer doesn't get hurt. But
what did Mexico do? Did Mexico retaliate?
So they haven't detailed yet. They said that they would retaliate, but they haven't detailed how.
And what about China?
And China, they said that they would retaliate, and then they opened this antitrust investigation with Google. So they were like, we're gonna show you we can F with your largest.
But what does the anti-Google, what does that even mean? Opening up a what?
Antitrust investigation, meaning it's had anti-competitive behaviour in terms of its operations, which we've kind of known about before with Google. It's getting.
Was this that thing that was like a Google amount of someone sued them by a Google or something, or like a million trillion?
That was Russia.
But is it the same sort of thing?
Kind of. It's like, hey, you've been too dominant in our country. We're going to sue you. And there's just like this constant tit for tat, and it makes doing business really, really difficult because there's uncertainty, there's regulatory hurdles, can everyone just take a chill pill and honestly just relax a little bit and let everyone, if you've got a country that can, like Mexico, produce an abundance of avocados, let them export them to the US and let the US have them, because the US can't produce avocados like Mexico can. Let's everyone just lean into their specialties so the world can have the most available resources at a lower price. I just think it's not that hard. Mexico supplies 90% of Americans' avocados.
And look, I can speak on behalf of Mexican avocados, which are delicious. And also, like, just get over yourself, Trump. Like, you can't do everything.
No.
The whole point of a global economy is that we're all trading with each other, not you're only trading within America. Like, it's such an individualist mindset, isn't it? It's like, all I care about is America. The rest of the world can just jog on. And it's like, that's not really how we've operated for hundreds and hundreds of years. So, like, this is problematic.
No, and it's like, let's lean on our specialties and be like, you know what, Germany, you're really great at manufacturing vehicles. Let's get our cars from you. Mexico, you're really great at producing avocados.
Mezcal, tequila.
And mezcal, tequila. Let's lean on you for that fun stuff. It's like, you don't have to be good at everything. I don't know, it just really riles me up. But
what do you think we're going to see? Zooming out, like, what do you think we're going to see from this? Stock market, consumers, like, what are the flow-on effects going to be?
I think firstly, we're going to see a lot more volatility. I think if one thing we've learnt is that he doesn't mind just like shooting from the hip and then being like, oh, actually, sorry, just jokes. Or, okay, maybe that wasn't a good idea, but that's too late. The market has already reacted. So there'll be a lot more ups and downs in the stock market, but that's what comes with investing. You do have to take these kind of this up and down, this uncertainty, these risks when you are investing. I also think the other thing to be aware of here is inflation. At the end of the day, if things are more expensive or going to be more expensive, that means inflation. And we have just spent years bringing inflation down to a more healthy level across the world, that there is fears that this could bring back inflation and we could end up paying higher prices for things.
Holy gamole, shamoli, facoli.
Holy guacamole.
Holy guacamole. I mean, I think that the first point you made is actually a really interesting one about getting used to the idea that Trump is arguably insane and it's just super irrational. Like, he makes decisions and then he can pull back on them, or he's like, I'm going to do this. And we know that the market and investors are irrational too, and they can pull their money and put their money in places and react to things that are happening based on the news that's coming out. And so I guess with that, it's just to be expected that there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, and that's maybe just what it's going to be like for the next 4 years. It's not to say it's not going to go up to the right, but it might just be like, oh, we're up, oh, we're down, which we kind of, I think if you're aware of what's happening in the news, it's okay and you can ride it out.
Yeah.
But it's just the understanding of the reason why things are going up and down so much is super, super important for people to get their heads around.
And you don't need to react to this kind of stuff. You know, you can read these headlines and you can be informed, but you don't have to go out there and sell things or buy things.
You're cool, calm and collected.
Yeah, exactly.
We smile and wave. We smile and wave. We say, hello, Trump. Hello, your stupid ideas. We say, oh my God, look at the stock market. It's absolutely having, but we don't jump into the chaos. That's the idea, right?
Exactly. We just go, thank you, Trump. And we wish a speedy 4 years ahead of us. And we hope that this volatility and this volatile person will
move on to, you know, greater pastures.
Yeah.
Is that a saying? I feel like that's a saying. It must be to do with agriculture, right? Like moving on to a better field or something.
Yeah, moving on to greater pastures. Yeah, exactly. Pasta. Now I'm hungry. I want lunch. Anyway, another thing that Trump has implemented or had an effect on or influence on is this whole move away, and we kind of spoke about this last week, a whole move away from diversity, equity, and inclusion. I thought, while we're talking about Trump, let's talk about this too. But Google has now said that it's no longer formally seeking to improve the diversity of its workforce. So it is stepping back from its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
Oh my God, this is actually a tragedy because they're some of the front runners for the work they do. I mean, we went to a diversity, equity, inclusion talk at Google in London and it was amazing.
Yeah. So it's told employees that it's no longer going to have these goals tied to representation. So whether it be, you know, to improve underrepresented groups by 30%, to have 40% of women on boards, you know, like all of that stuff. A lot of these companies, and I'm talking big companies now, like Google has just joined the ranks of, and I don't say join the ranks, makes it sound like a positive thing, but Meta, Amazon, McDonald's, Walmart, all these massive employers have come out and said that they're doing the same thing, which is not okay. The one glimmering light of hope is Apple. Apple has come out and stood up to this and is pushing back against this.
Oh my God, it makes me feel like emotional. And it also makes me want to put money into Apple, just hearing that.
And that's great. And that's exactly what this should be doing. The fact that Trump came out and said there is only two genders, there is male and female, plays into all of this. This is now, you know, having a very, very unsafe or a very at-risk community group of people in America, the LGBTQ plus community. Now this as well is not, you're not representing underrepresented groups or minorities at a company level or in an employment level.
Problematic, isn't it?
It's just, we've come so far and it just feels like, why does it even need to be a policy or be a topic of discussion anymore?
Do you know what? I think that I could be totally wrong with this, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that are going to send me hate mail because of this comment, but I feel like Trump says what a lot of people, and when I say people, I mean older generations, think. anyone who is reasonably well educated and probably under a certain age is very aware of the importance and it's just a no-brainer that there is so much fluidity in gender and the importance of diversity. I think that we've spoken about this before, but I have this feeling like what Trump's doing, the way he's like approaching, he's almost like he is the voice. No, but yeah, he is. But he's also like, I think there's a lot of people that think like Trump do, but they're too afraid to come out and say it. And all of a sudden there's this obnoxious orange man that's saying, this is what I think. And everyone else is like, oh, thank God someone else has fronted this. So now I'll jump back on that bandwagon. And I hate to say that. And I know that there's a lot of well-educated, open-minded, older people, but they're still a huge part of our population. So, and a lot of those people are the ones that are running the companies. So, yeah, I don't know.
He's preying on people that have lost their jobs due to immigration. So therefore, he says things like, I'm going to target Mexico because of their immigrants. And people that may have lost their jobs due to immigration are like, yes, thank goodness, he's pulling at this emotive, small group of people, well, actually big because he got into power, for people that are scared, and he plays into those emotions. People are scared about change. People are scared that there's, what is the world going to look like with such fluid genders? And they're scared about that. So then he plays into that fear and creates a sense of a kind of a safe mindset or a safe community, whereas you don't have to fear it. We've seen how much positivity and financial gain companies can get by having diverse members on their boards and having diverse employees and management teams and all of that. But I honestly just feel like sometimes I'm hitting my head against a brick wall with this stuff.
I saw some of your research on this, like that between 2021 and 2024, Google's investor report said that they're committing to diversity, equity, inclusion as part of everything that they do. Have they come out with a statement saying this is our new plan? Like, what's the new public?
They've come out and said that it's reviewing its programs and it will no longer have goals tied to diversity, equity and inclusion. When it released that report, it set a 5-year goal to increase the number of its leaders who came from underrepresented groups by 30%. And it doubled the proportion of black people amongst its leadership between 2020 and last year. And representation of women increased as well. So it was making significant moves and traction in those directions to achieve those goals. But now it's like, we're not going to have any goals anymore.
And what has Apple said publicly in regards to being against this?
There's this group that is going around publicly listed companies, almost like a shareholder activist group, that is going around saying, if you are having diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in your business, you're exposing the company to litigation, reputational, and financial risks. One of their arguments is that you're not choosing the best people for the job, you're choosing people based on their diversity, and therefore you're putting the company at risk. And so that's their side of their argument. So Apple has come out and said it's asked investors to vote against this movement, essentially. So they've asked them to vote against ending its diversity policies. So it's kind of a double negative, but yeah. So it's saying that we're not going to vote for removing our policies. We need all shareholders to band together and vote against this so that we can continue on our goals of DEI. But yes, this exact discussion should invoke you being like, okay, I'm actually going to invest more in Apple because I like what they do, and I'm actually not going to invest in Google or vice versa. Or this is exactly the kind of values-based investing that we speak about. It's not just environmental issues. There's social issues, which is exactly this. And within that, those underrepresented groups and diversity, equity, inclusion, one of the biggest ones is women. We've been pushing ahead to have certain thresholds of levels of women on boards, of women in senior management roles. We've been fighting for this for so long, let alone all the other minority groups that are much more minor than than the overarching group of women. Like there's so many other minority groups within that. It just exhausts me.
It's so deflating.
But the best thing you can do, and this is a great example, is vote with your wallet. Invest in companies that align with your values. Invest in the likes of Apple if this is exactly what you stand
Has Microsoft come out and said anything about this?
Not yet. Not that I've noticed. I mean, silence isn't great either, to be honest. At Trump's inauguration, you had Jeff Bezos from Amazon. You had Mark Zuckerberg there from Meta. Bill Gates wasn't there. The CEO of Microsoft wasn't there. So it seems like there is a bit of a divide forming between these large tech companies and kind of who they're...
Wait, so who are the ones that weren't there?
Google, Microsoft, Netflix, Nvidia.
So none of those ones were there standing next to him?
I'm just saying that the three most prominent people standing next to Trump in his inauguration were Mark Zuckerberg from Meta, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, and Elon Musk from Tesla. And we've seen Meta and Amazon and most likely Tesla come out and say that they're not supporting this. So,
but then you get Google saying that they're doing this and they weren't there.
Yeah, but you don't need to stand next to him to be a supporter. Do you know what I mean?
But that's what I mean. It feels like every big massive tech company is a supporter. That's how it feels.
What's that saying? Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Enemies?
Enemies.
You need to have some lunch, mate. You just cannot.
No, I
speak
can never
today.
say enemies. Enemies.
I think my overarching feeling is like just deflation in general towards investing, because if to make money in investing, I need to invest in these massive tech companies that are growing, or like the AI space, or blah, blah, blah. And they're the ones that are slashing women and minority groups and like absolutely f***ing up the planet. It makes me think like, well, awesome. So my only option here, if I'm wanting to make money through investing, is by supporting people that are totally misaligned with my values, because the S&P 500 has all of those companies in it. Like, it just feels really deflating.
There is companies though that are doing very, very well that have alignment with your values. Google, they do a lot of charity, like invest in a lot of charities, like all of this. Like you kind of have to take the good with the bad sometimes.
I don't know. I disagree. I'm not going to like go and be friends with someone that's like going and bashing down random people on the side of the street, but then, you know, donates 10% of their pay to the animal shelter. Like, I'm like, you're not a good person. I don't want to be friends with you just because there's a little bit of good there. Sorry, I feel really passionate and annoyed about this.
No, what if you doubled your money in Google and then you could go and spend that money and put that to good use?
That's a different angle. And honestly, I feel like I need that, because otherwise I just feel like I've lost faith in investing in general.
But I know what you mean. It's like the money's almost tarnished. It's a bit dirty.
I don't know, like I feel proud when a company's done well and I've invested in it. And I mean, look, I understand the idea that there's no business that's going to be perfect. There's not going to be a full suite of staff that are all amazing people. Like I understand that. I think I just feel like when I feel so strongly about the importance of diversity, equity and inclusion, yet I know by investing in Google I'm going to make returns. It's just really conflicting. It's a really hard like moral dilemma to find yourself in when on one hand, of course, I want to be making more money so that I can do things that I want to do, but that's so selfish. Well, it feels that way.
Yes, yeah. But you know what? These like big, audacious announcements from Google saying we're no longer supporting DEI to Apple saying we are, that will move money. There will be people like you, or there will be funds. So think of like KiwiSaver funds or pension funds, that they'll be moving money. There'll be millions and billions of dollars over time they'll be moving from these companies. So they have to be very careful with these kind of statements, because yes, you're feeling like this, but there's people with a lot of money or that manage a lot of money that also feel the same way. So
I hope so.
You do have to be a bit careful. And you know what? It could mean that Apple does actually outperform Google.
I actually really hope so.
And they prove there is actual financial benefit of having diversity, equity and inclusion policies in place and goals.
I feel real deflated, and I feel like there's probably... I know, you don't need to apologise. This is the news.
Should I finish with a joke?
Yes, but I was also just going to say, if anyone's listening to this and has thoughts, ideas, feelings, like this is obviously what the Investing Club is for, like to talk about this kind of thing, because I think everyone wants to be making money through investing, but like, how do we navigate the space when there's so much that maybe feels a bit uncomfortable right now? So I would say
I've actually got a few people lined up at Google as well that I want to talk
to. Oh, I love that. Okay, cool. Because that's actually something I did think about, Vic, is like all the amazing people that work at Google, because there's so many incredible people that work there. I wonder how they feel about that kind of thing. You know, it's like, it's like, where do you draw the line between, I don't know. God, it's exhausting sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you finish with your joke?
Yeah.
You forgot your joke, didn't you?
No. How do you make a hanky dance?
You put a boogie in it.
Boop, boop. It sucks that you know that.
You're going to have to do better than that to get a laugh out of me right now.
I know. I feel very deflated.
Okay, well, look, I think at the end of the day, this is like what's happening in the world. We can't ignore it. We can't be knowing about it, and being educated is like the first step to being able to do something to change it, right? So I think that the positive
knowledge
here is that
power.
Knowledge is power, exactly. So as much as I've been like wiring on and being, you know, there's things that we can do, and I think that we just need to be brainstorming that.
Yeah, and it's like knowing what's going on in the world, so you can feel like you can or you don't have to, but like there's the option to do something if you want to. The worst is not even knowing this and thinking you're investing in a really, really great company that is aligned with your values, but you're not. So at least now you have the information. Do with what you please. Hey, let's just make a pact. Next week we won't talk about Trump.
Yeah, can we do that? I think I need a break. Do you know what we'll do actually? We'll talk about it. He gets 5 minutes at the start of the podcast, and then we move on.
Yeah.
We do top line.
Yeah, okay.
Just to keep everyone up to date, because I actually do think, like, just based on what we said, I'm glad you spoke about it, and I'm glad that I now know. It just has ruined my day.
Apologies. Go have some mezcal, go have some avocados before they go up in price.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
Oh my God, there's going to be like an avocado shortage as everyone like hoards avocados.
Maybe I'll start an avocado farm.
They take about 5 years to grow an avocado tree, I was told.
Oh my God, don't have that kind of patience. God, it would be good. Imagine having avocado guacamole, breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Oh, your skin would be so great. Nature's
Do you
butter
think?
is what I call it. I think so. It's a healthy fat.
Nature's butter is what I call it. How old are you? Okay. Hey, I will chat to you soon. Thank you for all the research you did for this. And for anyone that wants to find out more about the Investing Club, maybe find a bit of solace in what's going on in terms of like speaking to other people and feeling like there's community and conversation. We'll put a link for the Investing Club in the podcast show notes, and you get a 7-day trial. So even if you want to pop on, have a look at the conversations that are being had around this, then you can have a look, see what you think. And any thoughts or questions or whatever, like Instagram, email, like we would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for listening to The Curve Weekly. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all the money, biz and stock market news. And if you like what you heard, we would love a review. Thank you.
Yes, we would love a review. But if you did hate it, please, don't leave one if you hate it. No, but in all seriousness, could you please leave a review? Because it really helps other people find our cute little podcast.
And we hope you have a good week and see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye. Sweet. Yeah. See you next Tuesday. Lol. See you next Tuesday. I mean Monday.
No, actually though, new episodes out every Tuesday. Okay, quickly, The Curve was created to empower and educate you about investing, but we are not financial advisors.
Our platform exists for educational purposes only, and it doesn't provide personalized investing advice for your individual needs and should not be relied upon to make an investment or financial decision.
And always remember to do your own research before making any investment or financial decision.
We're here for any knowledge and support you need, but the final call is always yours.
And thanks for being here.
You got this.
Yeah, we know you got this.